Howdy and welcome on back to East Texas now. I'm Hannah Johnson. How you doing? How you feeling? It's pretty nice outside. It's a little toasty, but we were talking earlier with Andrew Turpinning. He's with the East Texas Weekend, talking about the different events going on. And there was one that he didn't bring up, which I was surprised, but I get to bring it to you. We're going to talk now to, and you can see him here, he's joining me now, is the Assistant Professor of Ornamental Horticulture at Texas A&M. This is Dr. Andrew King. You're going to be helping out and putting on this event this weekend. It is help me out, the East Texas Annual and Perennial Trail?
Texas Annual Perennial Plant Trail. It's actually next Thursday.
Next Thursday?
Yeah.
Oh, pardon me. My
okay.
apologies.
No problem. June 25th. And so we're excited about it. It's been going on successfully since 1994.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a long-term program. But basically, if you've ever been to a garden center or any place where they're selling plants and you've been overwhelmed with the choices, we strive to help you determine what you ought to be growing.
Okay.
So we take annual plants, which are plants that are going to live and die in 1 year, or perennial plants that hopefully are going to come back, maybe die back down to the ground, but come back the following year. And we strive to show you which ones are most adaptable here in East Texas. And so we're really excited about that. Yeah.
Sorry, in my head I was thinking, I need help with my lavender because I kill lavender like it's nobody's business. I buy it every year thinking I can make it last and I can do things with it, and then it dies every time.
Yeah, well, we've got lavender out there,
okay,
but we're not guaranteeing that it's going to be successful. That's what a trial is, right?
Right.
Plants can either grow or not grow, and we're trying to show people what exactly is good for our area.
Okay.
And so that is really a good example. Everybody tries to grow lavender. Sometimes there are some other options that might be a little bit better for us.
Okay. And probably better for people's schedules. And
yeah.
I know even as someone who's like trying to grow my own green thumb, the direction of the lighting can actually be a huge factor. Oof. So that's the goal here, is to learn. It's an educational moment.
That's right.
So it's a trail. Walk me through of exactly how that works.
Yeah, so you basically, we're out in the middle of a cow pasture.
Oh, fun.
And a lot of our industry members who come to our event like that part, because it's really it's sort of a torture test for the plants, to be honest.
Yeah.
We don't want to put something in our landscapes thinking that it's going to be great if it's not.
Yeah.
And so if it does well in our trials, we feel really confident that it's going to do well in East Texas. And so you come out, we'll get you parked. The directions for the field day are online in terms of where to go. You can just Google TAMU and Overton. That's important. Overton's an important part of this. This is in Overton, Texas. I failed to mention that, and so not too far from here. And so basically you come out, we get you parked. We have lines of plants out in this field, and you just get to go and peruse them at your own speed. We'll be out there from 9 till 11:30. Then we move over to our center, which is where we're all officed, and there's a lot of plants and things over there. We'll be there from 11:30 to 1 for a lunch. If that's something you're interested in, you have to be registered for the lunch. And registration shuts down on June 22nd, so that's important. Registration is also available at our website. And then you can, after that afternoon, spend time listening to us talk from 1 to 4 for education on annuals and perennials and things that are really good for our area.
That's cool. I like that you break it up into, the hottest part of the day. You're inside in the AC. And so I know you mentioned the registration, the lunch, and everything else. Let's say you can't stay the whole time.
Yeah.
What do you think would be more beneficial? Getting to walk and ask questions amongst the plants, or actually going and listening to I would call it a conference almost?
It is. And since I'm one of the speakers that afternoon, I can say, and not offend anybody, I would come in the morning if I could only come for one portion of the day, because that allows you to see all of the plants out in the field, and that's really the start of the show.
Right.
That afternoon, we'll be talking about the plants, talking about the ones that we think are particularly promising for the future. We've got a number of the companies who have provided the plants for us who will be speaking that afternoon. And so it's a really good, well-rounded look at the industry.
Yeah.
But if you could only do one thing, morning or afternoon, personally I would choose morning, but that's just me.
Is there any specific varieties of plants that people can go and check out? Maybe they went
Yeah.
last year or the year before or back in 1994 when this all got
Yeah.
started. What is something that they can take away from this year versus the others?
Well, we have a lot of common themes. We still are working with things like vinca with periwinkle, and petunias are out there, and celosia, which kind of look, a few of them look kind of like little brains out in the
Oh,
landscape.
yes, those are so cool.
Yep.
Are they the red?
This one's the one that we have out there this year is a color I've never seen before.
Really?
And so that's kind of a fun thing for sure. But a number of different annual plants like that. And then this year, what's exciting is we're really focusing on the perennial aspect. So
Okay.
last year we didn't have as many perennials. We have parts of our field this year that in the past we've taken all of the field out after the year and just start all over again. This year we have parts of our field that will remain in the field for 3 years.
Oh, cool.
So next year you can come back and you can see what we've done, what has come back, what hasn't come back. And so if you're buying a perennial, one of the keys is that it's actually perennial.
Yes, and you
Yeah.
can see it just there. Like, hey, you were here last year. Look, it's still here.
That's right.
We were not lying.
That's right. That's right.
So, okay, what are some of the factors or some of the big things that a lot of people have in East Texas that you would say it's hard to grow? I mean, some of the, because I'm sure you've heard lavender before. It's
Yeah.
the acidity in the
Yeah.
soil, from my understanding.
Well, with lavender, it's actually one of our major issues is our humidity.
Yes.
If you think about where lavender is native to, they're very dry sites. And so it's so humid here that lavender just sits there and kind of wilts in the summer and says, I need a drier location.
Right.
So choosing the right plants, we're really blessed here in East Texas. I come from 4 generations of East Texas horticulturist, and my daddy used to say, if you get the brown down and the green up, you can grow it here.
Yeah.
And that's almost always true, but there are some really challenging things. The challenging things recently have been our winters have been sporadic,
Yes.
but extreme. Our summers have been either extremely dry or extremely wet, and so we can't really get a beat on what's going on. You don't know. You say, well, some of those summers, lavender would have been an excellent choice.
Yes.
However,
like last year when we didn't get anything.
That's
yes.
right. So we have a number of plants that we really believe in. I'm a part of a group at Texas A&M called the Texas Superstars, and the Texas Superstar Plant Program puts out plants that we believe are just absolutely foolproof.
Okay.
And so if you're ever interested, you can look, there's a website, Texas Superstar, and so you can check that out. But for our trials, we're much more varied, and we're looking for a whole lot more variation and maybe some things that you might swing and miss with, so that we can swing and miss for you. Right.
So you mentioned earlier about some of the speakers coming out. So tell me, can you give me any hints or
Sure.
details
No
about
problem.
those? Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'll speak. Like I said, there's 4 of our industry representatives that will speak, and those are really great opportunities to really delve into the real details of their products. And then we have a nurseryman from up and around Dallas with Southwest Perennials, Jonathan Suckup, and then there's also Greg Grant, which a lot of your viewers are probably familiar with. He is our Smith County Horticulture Extension Agent.
Yes.
A great horticulturist.
Any specifics on the topics?
Yeah, so believe it or not, we're going to talk about annuals and perennials. So I'm going to talk
yes.
about the trials and sort of how we got here and where we're going. And then Jonathan will talk about natives, because he's growing a ton of native plants in his nursery. And even though that's a much more popular topic than it's ever been,
Yes.
there's still a lot of questions about it. And then Greg's going to talk about the perennials and sort of which ones we ought to be focusing more on, maybe that we haven't been focusing on in the past. And honestly, anytime I get Greg to speak anywhere, I don't know exactly what he's going to say, but it's always good.
Why do you think there is this resurgence of people or just an interest in growing native plants?
Well, because there's a resurgent interest in native insects and, and native bees.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so that's a huge aspect there. And we have more knowledge of, what those insects really desire.
Yes.
And so native plants are always being sort of brought to the forefront, at least in the last 10 or 15, maybe 20 years. And then you get to the point where you say, okay, well, we've grown these. What can we grow next? The gardener's always looking for the next best thing.
Right.
And I don't mean that in a negative way, right? We're always excited about what's coming down the pike. And in the native world, sometimes what's coming down the pike are difficult to grow. And Jonathan will talk about that because a lot of these plants are hard to grow because they're so used to being neglected, right? That when we sit there and love on them too much, they say, I don't want that.
Yes. I've done that before.
Yeah.
Or the ones where you have to walk away and let them be.
That's right.
But then you hear some say that the best a garden can have is the gardener's shadow, where it's someone who is always in there. So it's tough to really guide what you're doing because you don't know what's right, what's wrong. But that's the whole important of trials.
That's right.
So
We strive to help there. But I would also say about that, if you're a gardener, that means you have failed before.
Yes.
And you're going to fail again. And but a lot of the cool things that we can do, we don't do because we've heard somebody say, well, you can't do that.
Right.
And I kind of like to say, well, listen, I wasn't successful, or maybe I've heard somebody say they weren't successful, but that doesn't mean you can't be.
Right.
And so, we certainly try not to tamp down the enthusiasm if it's there.
When you're looking for the person who's going to take away the most of this, are you looking at someone like who, basically I'm asking, who is this for?
Yeah.
Whether that's, your landscape experts or to your everyday backyard gardener, who is taking the most out of this?
This is going to sound like a cliche answer, but all of them.
Okay.
So we strive to be really applicable for industry professionals, so nursery professionals, landscapers. We have all kinds of people like that who come out. Master gardeners are a big part of our group. We are actually we have volunteers from Smith County and from Rusk County who make this work for us. And so they'll be out there, and they're invaluable. We love them to death. And they'll be out there, but they're also attending. And so, and then home gardeners, from people who are just starting to people who've been gardening for 50 or 60 years. We think they all can get something from them, but because, again, we're just trialing these plants.
I like going back to the idea that we're all learners, we're all students in the long run, even as much as we know. You, even being a professor, a doctorate, what is something that you've learned recently that might have surprised you?
Oh, well, honestly, it's less about plants and more about soils and more about water.
Yeah.
That's the part that is always challenging. Our field likes to hold on to water.
Okay.
And we've gotten some pretty good rain recently.
Oh, yes.
And so, we're talking about, how are we going to get water moving from this place to that place. But that's a good lesson for every home gardener as well.
Yes.
Which is you got to get water away from plants sometimes, not always put it on.
Yes.
Right. So that's an aspect that you have to keep an eye on. Fertility, talking about how much fertilizer can we utilize, and feel good about it from an ecological perspective, but also making our plants look as good as they possibly can.
Right.
We're always, I'm finding that a lot of home gardeners don't ever fertilize, or if they do, they really do it with a very light touch. And so they don't ever give the plant its full potential. It never reaches its full potential.
And that's something folks can learn is
For sure.
that portion. And you're going to have experts so people can ask questions.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're an open book in terms of that. And that afternoon, I'll go through the process of how we did what we've done, when we planted these things. Some of these plants are, we would prefer often to plant them at the perfect time, and then life gets in the way, and perfection's not, attainable. So anyway, those are all things that attendees can ask, and we'd love to chat about it.
Perfect. Now I'm going to pull up the schedule for the
Yes.
event, and we can go over the details again one more time: the time, the location, and registration and everything else.
Yeah. So 9:00, June 25th. It's Thursday morning. We'll be out at our East Farm, and the directions again are you can follow the QR code that's on this flyer. It's on our website. You can follow those directions and find the East Farm, because it's not the easiest place to find. But anyway, we'll be out there. If you see a bunch of cars heading that direction out into the middle of a cow pasture, you're in the right place. And then we'll get you parked. And then, like I said, around 11:30, everybody will move over to the center. And it's a come and go event if
Okay.
you want it to be. but you can also, like I said, stay for the entire day. And if you register, we can do lunch, and then after 1 o'clock, we'll be in the education session. We also even have a good friend of mine who might pick a guitar and sing some songs for us around lunch. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, so any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
No, I think that's pretty much it, but we're really excited about it, and thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, of course. Anytime y'all have anything going on, I think it's awesome. Especially, like you said, we're seeing this resurgence of people who are wanting to grow their own food, grow their own local native plants. It's also important. So
It is.
thank you, Dr. King, for coming in and talking to us. Again, we'll have more details on this over on our website, kltv.com and kcherry.com, and then you can kind of like find exactly where you can go, take all the family you need to, or, plan on
Absolutely.
attending. Again, next Thursday, make sure it's on your calendar.